Before we get started, just a quick note. Gilly and I may mention a few things that are coming down the road, and if so, those are what our current plans are, and they're subject to change. And for that reason, nobody should make any purchasing decisions based on, anything that we talk about in the future. So I'll do a quick introduction, some background on what led to the creation of Rapid Apps, and also some of the things you can do with it, who it's aimed for, and that kind of thing. Look a little bit then at how you get started with Rapid Apps. Then I'll be turning it over to Gilly for the demonstration, and we'll wrap up with just a couple of reference material slides for you to look at. So if we go back in history, say 30, 40 years ago, computers were really, at that point, used only by developers and the computer operators. Productivity started originally with just punch cards, went up to from assembler to 3GL languages, and then eventually in a striving to make developers more productive, we went to 4GLs, and then eventually went to visual designers for programmers so they could very quickly sketch out and build their apps and generate code for them. But along the way, something funny happened. People came up with the notion of spreadsheets and word processing capabilities, and so suddenly computers became things that could be used by the average office worker. And that continued over time to reach the Web 2.0 with collaboration tools such as wikis. And now we're at the point where, most people have, at least in our industry, in the technical industries, have mobile devices of some sort, whether they be smartphones or tablets. And we've become very used to a world in which we have apps on our phones and constant connectivity. And so we've seen really a consumerization of IT. And you can see this in some of the applications that you can use, things like If This Then That, which is IFTTT.com, which is a place you can go to stitch together applications that you have. So, for example, when you take a photo on your smartphone, you might automatically have it uploaded, and then you would tell it to send it to these people and off to these programs for cataloging. And so we have regular users of smartphones and tablets becoming effectively kind of pseudo-programmers and being able to specify behavior of what should happen when certain events occur. So that's been a very interesting trend for us. And then we've also seen, of course, as the cloud has come along, if you could build an app for yourself, you can now deploy it very easily. 5, 10 years ago, if you wanted to deliver an app, you'd have to call up the IT organization and have them provision a server for you and go through all that sort of thing. Now with the cloud available, we can make those things happen with a single click, and that's what we've done with Rapid Apps. So what is Rapid Apps all about? Well, fundamentally, you really want to be able to go from an idea that pops into your head about how you can make yourself more productive or those around you more productive and turn that into an app when that's appropriate without having to write a lot of code. And in fact, with Rapid Apps, as you'll see in the demonstration, you can get by without writing any code at all. So this means that regular business users and IT developers also have expressed an interest in this, can deliver new web and mobile apps very quickly through the cloud using the visual tools that Rapid Apps provide. You can see below a picture of how this works. So yeah, perhaps you're an app developer and you're using Rapid Apps, and it has associated with it a data store to hold your data. And because it's in Bluemix, it has access to a lot of the services available on Bluemix. A couple of key ones here are a cloud integration service, which lets you reach through your corporate firewall and access enterprise applications, data, and services, and incorporate interactions with those into your app. The cloud and database, which is something Rapid Apps is actually using as its data store. Web, mobile, push, and third-party services such as Twilio for sending text messages. So this now, with Rapid Apps, allows you to build fairly sophisticated apps without having to write code, and you'll see how that works in the demo. Now, once you've developed your app, you're going to want to make it available to people to use it. And there's a number of ways they can access your app. When you deploy an app on Rapid Apps, it provides you the URL, which you can change if you wish, that is reachable by a web browser, wherever you happen to have a web browser. There's also the ability for you to access that app, and it's a hybrid app essentially where you have the data in the cloud and the UI presentation is on your smartphone. We have a test app. You can go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and look for Rapid Apps, and you can download that app to your phone and then or tablet, and then you can put in your credentials, and it'll take you to your Rapid Apps dashboard, and you'll be able to run your app on your device one at a time. So that's a very handy way to very quickly test your app working in a mobile environment, a real mobile device as opposed to the preview capabilities that you have in Rapid Apps. And you can do this using a Rapid Apps test app. You can get your app onto the phone without having to worry about how you do that, right? So in the Android world, that's fairly straightforward. In the Apple world, there's a lot more security or caution around getting apps onto your phones, and so you would have to get your app in the Apple App Store or in your corporate app store. So having a Rapid Apps test app allows you to test your app on a real device without having to figure out how to get your app onto your device. But once you're happy with that, you can then build a real honest-to-goodness mobile app that runs independently of our test app, and you can put that on your mobile phone or device. So there's 3 ways to access your app when you're as a user: through a web browser, using the Rapid Apps test app, and using the app corresponding to your app that runs independently of the test app. So who benefits from Rapid Apps? Who is it for? And we've identified a couple of these 3 areas here. So one is the business user or business developer. So that person may have a particular productivity problem. It might be as simple as, we're sending spreadsheets around and updating information, and then somebody has to collate it all, and wouldn't it be nice if we could just do that on our mobile device? That's a classic example. It's a whole variety of other apps that they can build that meet the business needs that they're seeing directly. So I'm experiencing the problem, and I can build an app to solve that problem. There's also the possibility, of course, of building enterprise mobile and web apps without coding, which is also attractive. Now, to the IT organization itself, as you'll see when we get on to looking at the long tail of apps, they're focused primarily on delivering, business-critical functionality to the organization, and they generally don't have the bandwidth to deal with requests from business users. Hey, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I could get this small app to help me, right? Generally, you can't get the IT organization to do something at that level, and the IT organization feels the heat of not being able to meet that demand. So with Rapid Apps, an IT organization can empower a business user with a self-service app platform, Rapid Apps, that is governed in a way that provides IT with a comfort that things are being done in a proper way, and there's enough, the proper controls available and visibility into what's going on. It also provides the IT organization with a way for people who aren't one of the, the few scarce and precious mobile developers to still be able to mobilize enterprise systems using Rapid Apps, so you don't have to tie up your scarce mobile developers. And then, of course, there's a professional developer who's quite capable of building very complex apps in, using the traditional tools, but who in this case simply wants to build a quick app to get out there, perhaps to prototype, put a web or mobile front end on enterprise data so that the users can directly view that data or perhaps even manipulate it. And then finally, as we saw on the previous slide, because of all the services that are available within Bluemix and plus other adapters that are available, you can compose new apps from existing APIs and existing enterprise systems and tying things together with Rapid Apps. So who is this business user or business developer? It's typically somebody who understands the business problem and has an idea in their head about how to address it. This user is typically impatient with the limitations that they see in existing systems and processes, and they're typically self-starters, somebody who contributes to the company's success in many ways, and now they have the opportunity of developing an app that his or her colleagues and other people in the organization will want to use. Typically, in terms of skills, this business user / developer is tech savvy. It's a power user, has perhaps developed advanced spreadsheets, perhaps some business intelligence reports, managing web content on wikis or elsewhere, and perhaps using WordPress. and maybe even has some past programming experience or perhaps scripting or Visual Basic, and someone, of course, who has an interest in creating apps. And we find this kind of user in a wide variety of professions, whether they're business analysts, IT people, project managers, or other tech-savvy business users who just feel that, you know, there really should be an app for that. And why do we need this person? Why do they have this need in the first place for being able to build their own apps? And as I alluded earlier in this in our talk here, typically the IT organization only addresses the business-critical apps that are used by typically a lot of people. And see the red part of the curve over there, the head of the curve. And so the people that have you know, departmental scope apps that they need built, or perhaps a bit wider than that, typically don't get apps built for them through the IT organization. And so with this, with a product like Rapid Apps, now these people can directly build their own apps, and they can address the long tail themselves. Now, the reason this works is that we've seen in that trend at the beginning that people's skills in working with you know, programming-like stuff has really increased over the last 5 or 10 years with the arrival of mobile devices and a general familiarity and comfort with working with computers, even if it's something as simple as the if this then that website where you're stitching applications together. And then also having the cloud available with API access makes deployment a simple one-button click instead of a 1 or 2 week operation. And operations, of course, for your app is all taken care of. And then finally, there's a benefit to the IT organization that because they're able to now meet this need for these departmental or situational apps, there's a lot less shadow IT popping up. So, you know, sometimes in the past, we've often seen business organizations frustrated with the long wait to get service from IT to spin up their own servers, despite not having the skills to make sure they're secure. So that's another benefit of having Rapid Apps. So what kind of apps might you want to build? And there's really 2 key cases that we talk about here. One is on the left, you know, you're working with collaboration and office tools, and you find that they're limiting you, like the example I mentioned earlier of passing spreadsheets around and updating them and collating the answers and getting them all together. And then on the other side, on the right side there, we see commercial off-the-shelf applications, which are often very sophisticated and handle very complex needs, but they may be too expensive or too complicated for the basic needs that you may have. And so both of those provide motivation to build apps with Rapid Apps. There's a wide variety of examples, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but you know, whether they're work group productivity apps, we had someone who wanted to build a project management app, another one who had this particular capability they wanted to have available in human resources for people to look in, and some managers could track the skills of their employees, and a wide variety of apps like that. So we've got some screenshots here of Rapid Apps, and I know they're very tiny and hard to read, but you'll see these more closely when Gilly goes through the demo. There are the 2 clear phases to Rapid Apps. So first, you build your app, and to do that, there are 3 legs really, you know, to the stool here. There's the screens that you build, which represent the UI that you're going to see in your web browser or on your mobile device. There's also the data that the screens operate on typically, and then there's the logic. And I've talked a bit about how you can build a Rapid Apps app without writing any code, and you can just barely see here, but you'll see better when Gilly puts his app together, that we have this almost English language like template that says if this thing happens, then one of these, you know, select which one of the actions you want to take, whether it's sending an email or you can even put in a module that you got from somewhere. There's a variety of things you can do with your app when something happens, and you can even do an if-then else clause in there. So that this allows you, using a sort of a very English language type syntax, to build up fairly long chains of logic to handle whatever is happening in your app and performing the correct action. Now, I've mentioned the screens, and one of the cool things about Rapid Apps is the templates that it has available, so that you can very easily say, I need to be able to search, I need to search a database and find things either by, by sales rep or by company name, something like that. And so you can pick up a template that does that, and just with a few clicks, you can generate the screens for that. And then, of course, your next step is, hey, great, so I've got a screen to search by company name, another one to search by sales rep. When I start up my app, I need to be able to navigate to one of those screens, and we have a navigation template that lets you simply fire up the startup page that has buttons to select any of the screens that you've created so far. So we've gone out of our way to make sure that it's very easy to use Rapid Apps, and very quickly allows you to very quickly build your app. Now, once you have your app put together, you'll want to test it typically, which is a preview operation. And then once you're happy with that, then you'll press the deploy application button, and it'll then deploy it with the URL that it'll offer up to you to edit if you prefer. You can choose a different URL than the default one that it comes up with. And then you deploy your app. And likewise, you can undeploy it or pull it back with a single button click. So trying to make this all as smooth as possible. Now, there's a number of self-serve resources. So right now, Rapid Apps is in beta. And you can go to this one URL. If you're going to remember a URL, this is the one to know, developer.ibm.com/rapidapps. And on there, you'll see about a 1 minute, 8-second video that gives you a very quick overview. And to the left of the screen, you can see a Try Out Rapid Apps for Free button, which lets you go and start up your trial. Or if you're already running, you can open up your Rapid Apps dashboard. Now, there are quite a few services, not services, but quite a few interesting places you can go on this site. The Getting Started section you can see in the middle, vertically in the middle. Over to the left, there's Get Started. You'll find movies that introduce you to Rapid Apps and show you how to work with them in a variety of tutorials. There's also the Find Samples section here, which shows you our public repository where you can find templates and a variety of other things for you. And then finally, over in the Get Answer section, you can ask a question in the forum, and you'll generally get a response from our developers within about 24 hours. And we also have a wide variety of blogs that will help you address particular topics. And there's articles as well that show you, for example, how to use the cloud integration service. And lastly, I just want to mention again, we are in the beta program. We've been out in beta now for about 8 months or so, 6 to 8 months. It's open to everybody. It's a public beta. But we're also looking to work very closely with no more than 25 beta users. And we're looking at setting up something like optional meetings every week or two, depending on what people's preferences are. There we would review the latest released features, get your feedback on what you thought about the beta, tell you about upcoming capabilities. And because of our emphasis now on turning this thing around very quickly with very sophisticated user interfaces that are easy to use, we're spending a lot of time listening to and reacting to the customer feedback we get. So you really will have an opportunity to influence product direction. So if you think that this might be right for you, you can contact me. Or in fact, send an email to 10x@us.ibm.com, and we'll show you that email address. It's one of the last slides we'll look at after the demo.
Yeah, you could actually just click on the beta feedback and send
Well, that's right, yeah. Of course, yeah, that's why I highlighted it, and I forgot to talk about it. So just click the beta feedback button, and it'll send an email to us, and you can let us know of your interest in the beta program or anything else that you have to say about your experience with Rapid Apps. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gilly for the demonstration. And Gilly, let me just make you presenter. Do you have control now?
Yeah, let me try share my screen.
Okay.
In a second, I try to share. My screen share doesn't come up for some reason. I don't know. That's a technical glitch over here. Let me okay, that looks good. What I'm going to try, Scott, I'm going to try to get out of the meeting and come back again. Maybe try to actually maybe I should make you presenter again. And
yeah,
I cannot even make you presenter. Let me.
That would be a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. It says something. Allow. Okay. Now I think I'm getting there.
Oh. Yeah. Something's happening. Yeah. I see your screen.
Okay. You see my screen. Perfect. All right. Sorry for the little glitch. So I'm used to it. And actually, the demo that I'm going to give you today is going to be using something that we're about to release in about 2 weeks to push into production, and we're pushing into production once every few weeks, right? So just put your helmets on. This is early days. It's but it's actually quite useful as it is, and you're going to see what we're going to actually be able to do that stuff. So just to recap on what Scott was saying, RapidApp is a service on Bluemix. Bluemix is a platform for services, and typically used by real developers, people that build JE or Ruby on Rails or Node.js, things like that. But what we are trying to do here is to enable business users to develop their own apps, even though if you don't know how to write code, or even if you used to be a coder a while back, but you're a little bit rusty and you may not be able to stand up a whole application from soup to nuts, RapidApp is for you. So it's about making business users develop their own app. That means we have to make it really simple, simple to use, and simple to deploy. However, it is running on Bluemix, running regular Node.js-based application that we generate. And you could go into Bluemix and see them and use them and manage them as usual. So what does it take to do RapidApp? So what is it? So first of all, Dave, which is the persona of a business user, has to be able to build an app. That means we have to provide an app builder, a place where you build your app, right? And as Scott mentioned, what is an app? It's a place where you define your data, the data that you want to manipulate. Typically, business users, it's a data-based applications. Data may be coming from local that you create them, or data may be hooked up to enterprise data, right? So if it's a user registry for telephone numbers and emails and notification, things like that, or it's connected to a back-end process, right? Open a ticket or look at what's going on, queries. And then the second thing, once you define the data that you want to use, it's the screens. At the end of the day, when you have a mobile app or even a web browser, it's a bunch of pages and navigations around them. So you have to have a builder that actually defines all those things. The second thing that you need to have is a dashboard. Bluemix has a dashboard, but it's very much catered to real hardcore developers. We are doing the same thing that the same dashboard is doing on Bluemix, but what our dashboard does is dumb it down to the point that once you have an app, we could generate it, deploy it for you in a one click of a button. You could specify the URL and specify permissions. Who could use which page you could see, who could update, things like that. Another thing that we realize is that those business users most of the time would not be able to develop everything from scratch. They want to reuse stuff if it's themes or hook up to a registry or back-end processes. They're not going to be able to provide the details of doing all of those things. So we have a community around Bluemix. So as if you look at the URL that Scott gave you earlier, you go to our community. You have we have a shared project where people could reuse templates, adapters, modules, and we can see some of that as we're going to go through the demo. So we definitely want to have a community where you could leverage and kickstart your building from something. And the last thing, everything that we do here, even though you see it in the context of RapidApps, it is based on Bluemix. you could go or let more expert people, if it's operation people or developers, they could go to Bluemix dashboard and manipulate and scale up or down and beef up your applications, even though they build with Rapid Apps. With that said, what I'm going to do in the rest of the time, we have a little bit time, about 20 minutes or so left, so I'm going to build a very simple app for a travel request and approval. This is actually a real problem that we have in IBM. If I want to travel somewhere, I have to get a VP approval. This is the kind of information I would submit, and the approval list is maintained somewhere else. Typically, I would have hooked it to a filter out of our user registry. Over here, I just created some list real quick for this demo. And let's go build an app. What we do is define the data for the travel request, build the screens, set up some permissions for managing the apps, deploy the app, test it, provide rules to send emails when things that happen. And doing the app is really a way for me to show you kind of around that Rapid Apps, what is it all about. So with that said, I'm right over here, and I'm using not a production URL over here. I'm using the staging environment, which is really a test environment for Rapid Apps. And this is the dashboard. So you come, so you see you could create application. I have no applications. I have one data object that I already created. We could click on it and look what's inside. It's just a list of approvers. So I have a list of stuff. I have a test one just for me, so actually I could get notification just to test it. And that's it. Typically what I would do, I would create it remotely so that it's connected to real enterprise data. But that said, what I'm going to do now is, let me move this down over here. What I'm going to do, the first thing we're going to do is create the data sets that represent the travel request. So I'll click on New Data, and I could import it from a spreadsheet, hook up to an enterprise data, but over here I'll just create it locally over here. And what it does, it brings me to some type of data editor, and I could say I would like to have a new property, and let's suppose call it requester name. An attribute is going to be of type text, and it's not required. I could say, let's suppose, required attribute, right? And create another one. I could say requester email, and leave it as text. Have another one, maybe call it approver. But now I'm saying the approver is not just text. The approver is really a link or a reference from my data set called approvers, that list of users. So it's going to be just a link to one of those guys I would have to pick. And I'm going to say required. And I could say that is required, but I could play with those kind of settings later. Create another property, call it purpose. Another property, call it description. Travel date, and I'm going to set it of type date. I'm going to look at travel from, business reason. And maybe one more, call it cost, and make it of type number. So now I have the shape of the data set that I actually want to use, and I could start to enter data right over here if I wanted to, but I'm going to just leave it empty. And, oh, I didn't give it a name. Let me just go in there, call it, I could do it later if I wished, call it travel request. If you noticed, everything could be just pure English. It doesn't have to be programmatic. And my bad over here. I didn't save it. Second. So I have my data set. So I have two data. I have the little empty travel request, which has a set of properties. and I have approver, which is just a list of VPs. They're actually real guys. And the next thing I'm going to do is create an app. And I could have done it in any order I wanted to. I didn't have to create the data first if I wished. But let's call it a travel app. And I could start, don't have to, from a template. When I click on a template, it goes to our shared project. Look at all the templates over there. Right now, we are the one that's seeding it. But as time progresses, anybody could contribute, and you're going to see a list of templates. And you have a search by templates. This is a template that generates a set of screens to allow you to search by a particular properties, and you could actually look at preview on the right-hand side what it looks like. You have, right now, we have here a list and form template, which has two screens. One, a review data, which is actually listing the data from a data set, or submit new data, right? So if I could hover on it, I see preview on the right-hand side what it's about. And I have another template, which is kind of a navigation template. It's typically provide a welcome home, put it at the home page or whatever. It's something they have to do. Since I want at the beginning to list and create template travel request, I think I'm going to go with the list and form template. I'm going to choose it. And it's telling me over here, okay, so you have a template to submit data and review data. What data do you want to submit and review? And I'm going to select over here the travel request, and I'll generate an app. As a matter of fact, we have an app that's already generated. I could actually go ahead and even preview the app if I wanted to. Go to the preview. The thing is that I'm coming over here. I see that I have all my lists already there. I could select an approver. I could select one of those people from the record. I'll try to use the test one, so if I send an email by mistake, I've created some rules that actually go to me rather than one of those VPs. But in any case, I'm not going to submit anything yet. I'm just starting. Go back to my content, and if you look at my application, I have two screens. I have the review data, and I have the submit data. So let me go and kind of tinker with it a little bit. I could go further and customize those screens. Those templates just kickstart me with those screens. So let's look at screen number one. This is the submit. Maybe I'll rename it and call a new travel, or maybe call it submit travel request. That looks good. I could go over here and actually I could organize things a little bit differently if I wish. Change things around, and actually let me see. It actually didn't pick up. So this is a bug over here. Submit travel request. Let me go ahead and look at this guy and actually go ahead and manage travel requests. So I have those two screens. What I'm going to do, I'm going to also actually, for the requester name and the email name, I could do things like say, oh, by the way, I may require, in a second, I'm going to require users to log in to the app. So then I could pick up their email and name directly from their credentials. So I could say I could pre-fill any one of those property with some values. But over here, I could take the simplistic values. Over here, take the user email address. So I could just right copy it over here. And now I'm going to go ahead and click on that guy, and I'm going to put over here the username. All right. So I have those two things already pre-filled. That looks good to me. The thing that's missing over here, if I look at the app, I have those two screens, but I really don't have a home screen that actually tell me to navigate to one of those. So I could use those other templates. I could add templates or screens, custom screens at any time. So I'm going to add one of those navigation templates. It creates me that welcome kind of screen. Let me add those. So now that I have a welcome screen, it looks pretty decent to me. Manage travel request. Let's see how the application looks like. So this is a preview. It's still not fully deployed. It is running on Bluemix, but it's not fully deployed as an independent application. And I could submit a new request. Here we go. You see, since I'm already logged into Bluemix, it's pre-filled. In Bluemix, there is no usernames. But if I would have logged in with Facebook or Gmail, as we're going to do in a little bit, you're going to see that it's going to pick up a name. And it pick up my email address. And I'm going to pick up an approver. Right, let's pick up, the test approver here, purpose, customer visit, description. Since this is a date, it would have widgets typically that would deal with dates, travel form RDU, and let's suppose for now this is just a pure number, so I just make it $1,000. And I click submit. Actually, this is a running thing. It's actually did submit the record, and I could actually I submitted it twice, as a matter of fact. I could actually see those things right over there. If I'm going to go back to the data, let me open another tab there. And I was on production, I believe. Those are the number of projects I have on actually Bluemix. If I look at the data, you would see that I would have 2 records because I submitted twice. Oh, I have a little bit of a pause over here. Try to go over here. So we are working on test environment, not just for us, but for the whole system there. But you see, in the data itself, I have 2 records that added the identical records. Since in the preview I could click on it twice. But if I look at the link for the approver, you're going to see that it actually linked to a different data set. It linked to the test record with that particular image over here. And it actually works pretty well. So far so good. I have an application with welcome 2 screens. One more screen probably I want to add is probably to say, I want to add another listed form to manage my approvers. Right? So I have the travel requests and I have the list of approvers. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and choose to bind that particular template to approvers, right? And I could actually just rename those applications a little bit better. And I'm going to call this one manage approvers. And over here I'm going to say add approvers. And now in the welcome screen, I probably would have to add a few more links since it's already generated and navigate to say add approvers. And this button, I'm going to say add this and manage approvers. And maybe I'm going to move the submit travel to be the top link. And let's see that it actually works for me. And I have all those approvers, so I could go ahead and since I'm running in a preview, the pictures would actually select a file from the local file system. But if you run it on a phone, you could snap a picture or actually point to a picture if you wish. So that looks good. The only problem that's missing here is that first of all the application is not deployed, but also there's no permissions. I really want to make sure that just a few people could manage the approvers or change and modify the travel requests, and users could only really submit requests or maybe look at requests but not really submit anything. So I could actually specify some permissions on the app. I could say I'm going to require you to log in, and by logging in, there's 2 other properties going to get filled in automatically. And I could create any roles I want. It's just names. I'll call it maybe one admin. and I'm going to create another one that's called the user. And I'm going to say for the, I'm going to lock that screen, and that screen for the admin, he could edit and view information on that screen, and users cannot see that screen. And the manage approvers, I'm going to say, okay, an admin can edit and view this, and a user cannot. I'm going to say manage travel requests. This is the ability to edit, delete requests, modify them. I would say the admin could actually edit data, and the user, let's say, just only view the data, right, just for the heck of it. Submit request. I'm going to say only users would be able to edit and review this data, and so is admin. Gives users will be able to submit new requests. And welcome, I'm saying, you know what, it's not open, it's open to anybody, whatever. Another thing I'm going to do is actually add, so I'm going to say all logged in users, I'm going to get the user role. So that means if you logged in, you're automatically a user. And I'm going to add a user. This is just an email address, gmendel at, I could say Gmail, but I'll put over here for US.com. And I'm going to say that he is admin, right? So now I actually put permissions on my applications. And now that I have the permission sets, I could go ahead and deploy the application. And deploying is actually one click of a button. Okay, that application, that URL is already taken in Bluemix, so let's call it GM Travel App. That takes about a minute or two. What it does now is actually collect all the artifacts, generate a Node.js application, push it to Bluemix as a platform. And you could go look at that app from Bluemix, or you could manage it from here. It's going to be running there. And we could go and try it. You could then download from here a Cordova project that you could actually compile to iOS device or Android device and submit it to an app store. Or you could use our test app that's available on the app stores, the iOS and Android app stores, and use it. It's going to go to the dashboard, and you could run any apps that you have already running. I could run it also from the web, so I could click over here, and I'm going to have my application running. And it's telling me, oh, but you have to sign in. And I forgot to put headers and footers, so it doesn't show me who logged in here. I could do it in a second. But when I log in, I could log in with any or Google, Facebook, or Bluemix. If I log in as Google, I'm already logged into Google to read my mail this morning, so it automatically kind of logged me. It didn't prompt me. But you see, the only thing I see is submit travel request and manage travel request. And actually, I cannot log out just because I didn't put headers. So let me go to my application real quick and fix that. And I'm going to go back to the dashboard. And the next thing I'm going to do is add a header to my application. Headers and footers. And I'm going to say, call it header 1. And what I'm going to do is going to add item number 1. I'm going to add login status, right? And I'm also going to add maybe screen navigation and allow you to always go to the home page, to the welcome page, right? Save. Right, I'm going to go to my deployment, say redeploy app. Right, what it does is going to repackage the test, push the application again. And then I could log out and log in as the my IBM ID, and you could see that I'm an admin and I could do way more on the application. Close this, we could close this. While it's doing this, okay, it's already there. I'll sign in. I'll sign in with my Bluemix ID at this point. It's going to log me in with my Bluemix, and since I'm already logged in, it's not going to prompt me. It's automatically going to go through the dancing, log me in. And, you know, I could tweak with the icons and whatnot for the headers. I have my header now, and I could go to the welcome at any point of time. And as you see, I could go to any of the pages. I could look at my approvers. Here, if I wish, something that I couldn't have done when I logged in with my Gmail address. So now, the application is almost done. So right now, I could do CRUD operation. I could just create requests. I could delete, add users if I'm an admin. The last thing I want to do is to add some logic. And let me show you a little bit as we go to logic. So create a rule. Call it, let's suppose I'm just going to do simple email notification. Click on that. And what rules are all about is really logic that's running in this particular case, rules are running on the servers. You could do similar rules in HTML and JavaScript that actually runs on the client, on the app itself. But over here we're saying, okay, the rule, when should the rule run? We have three types of events. One is data events. That means if somebody either create, delete, modify data, right, any data on the server, right, from an app or from an API. Timer event, you could actually run some rules that, let's suppose, go to a particular backend system and do a query for tickets or whatever, and if a status have changed, modify something or do something else that you want to do. Web events is the ability to provide a URL that actually you could hook up with if this and that or Zapier, where somebody could do a post or a GET to rapid apps, regular HTTP call, and something happened, and you could specify what happened within your rules. But what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to do regular data events. So I'm saying, okay, when something in data occur, the second question it asks me, okay, what data are you talking about? And right now I just have two data objects. I have approvers and travel requests. I'm going to select travel requests. I'm going to say when it's created, or remove or update. I'm going to say when a new travel request is created, what do I want to do? Action type. So I could do all kind of stuff. I could work with data directly, more visual kind of stuff, but I could actually call a web service. That means do an HTTP GET or a post and send a hook back to something like, so I could potentially, when somebody create a record, I could go and do a webhook to say if this then that or Zapier and do something, and they could call back through our web interface to do something with us. But at the same token, I could write JavaScript, and JavaScript, you could actually write a snippet that would run in a sandbox, and you could do whatever you want. And JavaScript could actually use modules, and we have a bunch of modules on their shared stuff to do things with rationality in concerts and to do with IBM business process and hook up to backend to do all kind of stuff. What I'm going to select right now is really send a message. You could send email or push notification. Right now, push notification in the new pivot is not there yet, but it's coming up. And I'm saying sending an email, okay? Sending an email to who? So realize the event over here is travel request. So what enters to that event is the new travel request. So I could go ahead, and I don't need my helper here, but I'll go ahead and say, okay, if I type $, it automatically give me a suggestion and said, oh, look at your input. And it says, oh, the input is of type travel request, and I could go ahead and look at say request or email, right? Or I could actually go ahead and look at approver, and this is the approver, the VP, the linked data record, and he looks inside to that approver record and look at his email probably. Say, okay, send an email to that guy, the approver, and said, maybe input, let's see, requester name, submitted at travel request, And I'm just going to be lazy here and maybe type over here, what is it, input. And I'm going to type description. And that's it. Now I have an email notification that actually set up. And now from that point on, anytime a new record is created, that rule is going to get executed and the email is going to get sent. Now what I could do is another rule that says, oh, okay, if the email was not created but rather modified and the status, approved or rejected is there, send an email back to the guy that requested it. So I could actually modify and set up rules like that. So we kind of at the top of the hour. We have a few minutes left. So what I did to recap, I created a data set called travel request that actually points to approvers in some approval list that I had. I then created a bunch of screens. I protected them to make sure that some of that function is only available to a set of people. I deployed the app on Bluemix. I set up notification rules, and I have an app running. I could just run it from the web now on that URL from here, or I could actually use my phone to actually do the same thing. All right, so Cesar, we could open it up for question now, if you wish.
Yeah, or if you're in the audio chat, you can type your question in the chat. So Gilly, we have one here. How can I integrate with web services?
So when you say web services, I'm not sure what you mean exactly. So I assume maybe WSDL or REST kind of services directly. So you could have many ways to do that stuff. If it's regular REST HTTP calls, you could do directly from the rules and say you specify the URL, the content, and the content could come from either record content or you type it yourself, or you could write, if you know a little bit of JavaScript snippet, you could write your own snippets, and there are many demos out there of how to do that stuff, and you could send whatever you want. As a matter of fact, even if it's regular API, not necessarily just WSDL or REST, a standard API, you could write JavaScript to do anything you want if you wish. Or you could get somebody to write you a module and then load the modules to RapidApp. As a matter of fact, if you go to extensions, I could load modules. Those are just Java, regular Node.js modules you could extend RapidApps with. We have a few online that you could actually pick up. We have an RTC module that allows you to interact with the Rational Team Concert. This particular module, this is a Hello World module. So this is a sample module that actually works with Google Web Services API for geographic location, geolocation. So you could create your own.
There was another question here. How do I back up my app?
That's a very good question. You go to the app itself and you just take it out. You come over here, and I could go ahead, click on that button, save the app, and that's it. Now that would save only the application. It would not save the data for it. It would just save the shape of the data that it needs. However, you could go to the data and download the data content itself. So you would have to export the app, give it to somebody else to load it and run it, but they would have to have their own data, or you could give them also your data, and then they could load the data as well.
Next question, how do I get help if I run into trouble building my app?
So I just published Scott's telephone number. I'm just kidding.
No, not that answer.
No. So we have the forum. The best thing to do, if you go to Google and you do RapidApps, and go to our dev-to-dev site, it's typically going to be the first link that comes up on Google. There is a forum over here. Click on the forum. Ask a question. You're going to have answer coming back immediately. Or you could always click the feedback button on the app and actually get somebody accepting the note and responding to you immediately. And of course, if you're an IBM client, an old IBM client, there's regular, once with GA, there's going to be regular service contracts if you wish beyond the social kind of based help you have. And you know, we are on our email addresses are known, so you could always send us an email. We'd be very happy to work with you.
And the last question we have, and I think you addressed this already, can I extend Rapid Apps with code snippets to perform my own rules?
Absolutely. So I didn't show it to you, but if I go back to, I don't know, where was I, right over here, probably the dashboard. I'm going to go ahead to create a new rule, call it foobar, save. Let's go to the rule. And I'm going to say, let's suppose just run on some data events. Let's suppose take, or I could say timer, travel request. But the rule that I'm going to run is going to be JavaScript. And like I said, I could add modules attached to modules that I could call them. Those are the modules that I have loaded already here in this thing. But I could run anything I want. I say 1 + 1. Right? That rule would run every time. It's stupid. It doesn't do anything. But I could actually test it. Give it a try, right? It give me 2, right? Or I could say VRX equal new date, right? And this is an eval return date. Let's run that. Give it a try, right? So we get 2014. So this is just, if you know a little bit of JavaScript, life is good for you. Right, and I could have the tracing to see exactly what happened. And it's telling me, oh, this is the input, because I'm testing, you know, I'm actually having a travel request created. So it simulates, you take the first record of travel requests, you see, first of all, you see the login user, Gilly Mendel, oh, you see all kind of stuff about me. You see the input that comes in, that's the record, the first record. You see even the picture, it's an embedded data. I didn't do anything with it, but then I go ahead, it loaded step number 2, it actually loaded that module RA, which allows you to communicate with data of RA. If you look at that stuff, and here's the result that came out from that stuff. And I could actually go ahead and look at, you know, the input come with, say, requester name, or let's suppose, what else I could do something, so I have user. Let's just say input requester name, right? So it's G Mendel. So I could go to my test and actually come over here, X equal input requester name. And I'm going to type X. So actually, let me reload the page. I think I have a syntax error here. Input requester name. Let me test. Here we go. I got Gilly Mendel, and I could have more steps over here. And after I get this, I could say this is actually returning Gilly Mendel. And over here, I could have another JavaScript or do something else and do send email. And I could send email to step 1. Right, so I calculated my email address from step 1, and in step 2, I'm sending email from step 1. So you could actually nest and do all kind of stuff like that, yes.
Okay, that's all the questions that I see. So I think, Cesar, we've come to the end.
Okay, guys, give it a try. This is early days. So, yeah. We'd love to hear feedback, comments, suggestions. This is the time the iron is really hot. We could bend.